Hello and welcome. My name is Rob and I'm from that channel Performance Check. I'm going to be talking about a few things today. I'm going to be answering some more highly interesting questions that have been very carefully thought about from the RPG a Day questions list. It's going to be a show-stopping event. So I'm gonna do that. I mean, I've started them now, so I have to finish them. Is basically my logic. It's begun, and I will not stop until I have finished the RPG a Day questions in a shorter burst as I can possibly manage. Because my goodness, I know, right? Full disclosure. The RPG a Day questions are in support of BrigadeCon, and it's a really good cause that I completely believe in, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. But these questions are dross of the most ridiculous nature. Now, before I get going with that, I will say that I'm going to give you a channel update, but really there's only one thing to update you about, and that is the next session of the Lawkeepers. That is Lawkeepers Chapter 9. Yeah, the Lawkeepers Chapter 9. I won't say the title because the title will give away stuff if you've not seen Chapter 8. Yeah, Lawkeepers Chapter 9 is going to be on the 2nd of September. So whack it in your calendars where you can join me, Lloyd the RDM, Locris Planetoid, Chadnick, and Michael Barker as they continue their adventure. It's going to be a really good one. I think 9. It's gonna be tense. I know I say something along those lines all the time, but generally speaking, yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. So that's basically it for the channel update. So I'm gonna go right ahead and I'm gonna start reading these wonderful questions that have been so carefully thought through, painstakingly so. Which sorry, let's start again. I'll tell you which number it is. So, 15. Which RPG do you enjoy adapting the most? To be honest with you, if we're talking mechanically, I don't really do an awful lot of adapting. But when I do, I would say it's 5e. Mainly because it's a really simple system and it's easy to adapt to your own uses. So that's that. Really easy, I'm afraid. Like, I wish these questions were things that I could expand on, but I can really just answer these questions by just saying, boom, the answer. Like, 5e, the end. 16. Which RPG do you enjoy using as is? I think I probably mentioned something along the lines before, which is probably World of Darkness. I don't think World of Darkness works particularly well when you do homebrew, because I think that the in-house as-is setting is fantastic. I'm really excited about the new stuff that World of Darkness has released. They've released some alpha stuff, and I'm going to be doing stuff with the alpha stuff. I'm going to be running a game of some sort. Now, I'm not going to say whether it's going to be a campaign. It's going to be like a non-committal kind of campaign thing where we'll just do it when we can. So more on that in the future, because a few people wanted me to run Vampire. I've talked a lot about Vampire in the past, and I've never run anything like that in the community before. So I thought, why not? I'll give it a go. But yeah, using as is, I'd say World of Darkness for that reason. 17. Which RPG have you owned the longest but not played? Going back to World of Darkness, I own an older copy of Werewolf the Apocalypse. And I believe me and Barker had a conversation ages ago when I was doing Critical Conversations, which will return, I promise. But he and I both had the same experience where we've made characters for Werewolf. Like, I know I've made characters for Werewolf a few times. Made the characters, but just never got around to playing. So, yeah. It's Werewolf, which is a shame because Werewolf is a pretty spectacular looking game. Like it's a good game from what I've seen and from what I've heard. And I like the system. I like the World of Darkness in general. So there we go. 18. Which RPG have you played most in your life? D&D. Next question. Come on, guys! Come on! I'm just giving you one word answers, like these questions. 19. Which RPG features the best writing? That's better. That's better. 19. Which RPG features the best writing? I would say probably the Call of Cthulhu stuff. I think Call of Cthulhu has some really excellent writing in there, as well as there's being actual extracts from Lovecraft himself. I'd say that generally speaking, getting the tone across, I'd say Call of Cthulhu is pretty much up there for the writing. I don't know really. Yeah, I'd say probably Call of Cthulhu. I don't want to say World of Darkness again or 5e, D&D 5e. So there we go. Although D&D 3.5 had some really good writing and stuff. So there we go. Let me see. 20. Oh God. I don't believe this. I don't believe this. I'm gonna do it again. So I'm sorry. I did this last video. If you saw my last video on RPG Day questions, but what is the best source for out-of-date RPGs? The internet. Okay. Every other answer. Well, I say every other answer, but like every now and then something comes up. I just go the internet. The internet. Like seriously, if it's out of date, you can't go and buy it. So it has to be the internet, doesn't it? The DM Guild or GM Guild or whatever it's called. There we go. That's another thing you can use, I guess. But there you go. I guess eBay. You know, just think. Just think. It's not hard. It's like you know where to get them. Like, why are you? Anyway. I'm letting these questions really get to me now, which is a big problem. But never mind. 21. Which RPG does the most with the least words? I don't know. Fate's pretty short. Primetime Adventures that I've mentioned before, that's pretty short. That's pretty cool. I would say those because they're designed to be low maintenance games. They're designed where it's basically pick two games which are, I'm pretty sure Fate in some way must have been inspired by Primetime Adventures. It must have been because they're so similar. But I'd say for the pick up and plays, yeah, I'd say it's either Fate or Primetime Adventures. And finally, this is the quickest one I've done. 22. Which RPG is easiest for you to run? D&D. Because I play it the most. Like, and I understand it, and I've been playing D&D for, like, a massive portion of my life. I'd say it's easy for me to run because I understand the rules. I understand how to, make my own settings. What else do you want from me? RPG a day questions. My goodness. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just being a moron. Maybe I'm being mean. Maybe I'm being a prick. Okay, that's completely, maybe I'm just being too sarcastic. But am I wrong? Are these questions not just a little bit, I don't know, maybe I'm just being too cynical and closed-minded about the whole thing. So I'm going to say hi to some people that have joined me here today. So let's see. I've got Chris Wilhelm. Hey, man, how's it going? Dude, I just want to say, Lloyd whacked out. My goodness me, where's that going? Put up a hangout the other day, and Chris joined it. And I hadn't spoken to Chris in ages. So, dude, it was really good to see you, man. Or speak to you at least, So, yeah. Taylor Jeffrey, my goodness me, Taylor Jeffrey, the talented and amazing Taylor Jeffrey. Taylor, bless her heart, has been watching Lawkeepers back to back and has been giving me updates on what's going on, where she's got to, and her opinions about it and stuff, which I've really enjoyed, Taylor. It's been really great getting your opinions and feedback about the campaign. And I would say that that's a good thing for anyone to do. Like if you find yourself watching an online game, I guarantee you that the person running that game would love feedback. I'm always after feedback. I think it's one of the most helpful things in any artistic endeavor. If you close yourself down and you're just like in your own head, then things likely won't, improve. So it's always good to get feedback. So Cheers, Taylor. Sam DiMercurio, hey man, how's it going? I think you're the one that started this, what do you like best about RPG things, which I'm going to go into in a second. Sam, I'm really enjoying your streams lately, by the way, as well. Like, I know we've been joking about the so and so and so and so is bad for the hobby, but like, in all seriousness, man, like, I've really enjoyed watching your stuff lately. So keep it up. Jeff Doty has joined. Jeff, my bloody brother-in-arms in the Sack of Troy game that we played. Oh my goodness me. I'll be talking about this later because it's part of stuff that I enjoy in RPGs. But my goodness me, Nick Dawson ran just a blinder. This is my first Nick Dawson game as well. He's asked me to a few, and every time I've like been unable to do it for whatever reason. And now finally I got into one, and oh my god. The man is a king. Taylor Jeffrey says, non-committal campaign. You're speaking my language. Taylor, we'll chat. We'll talk about it. Tyler Hurst joined and says, hey, it's my boy. Hey, man, how's it going, dude? Good to see you. Tyler Hurst then says, there's a new RPG coming out on Kickstarter called Sins, and it looks amazing. Dude, yeah, I'll give that a look. That sounds wicked. Tyler Hurst says, thinking is hard. It is. It is. He then says, Dread? I think that Dread doesn't have many rules, and it does a ton too. Yeah, I guess that's for... Which question would that be? Enjoy adapting the most? Like, you can use that for a lot of systems? Is that what you mean? But yeah, you're right. Dread's awesome. Jeff says, man, you know the questions are fascinating when you can answer 75% of them by saying either D&D or the internet. I know, I can't help it. It's like, what's the best source of out-of-date RPGs? The internet. Just find them on the internet. Or, I don't know. Like, really, honestly. Like, come on. It's really easy. Really easy. Rory says, but what do you like in an RPG? Well, dude, that's what I'm getting to, man. I'll be getting into that in a bit, what I like about RPGs later on in this stream. Tyler Hairston says, I wish I got more feedback. So nice to see how the viewers are thinking of following the series. Yeah, like, I get some great messages about Lore Keepers. Mainly, the stuff I get about Lore Keepers is questions, because I'm the kind of DM that I'll mention something and I'll make a point of it being there, but I won't explain it. I won't like go into too much detail about it because either I know it's going to be something that comes up later, or it needs to be ambiguous for things that I have planned for later on or whatever. But I get a lot of questions about it, so that's always fun. But I don't really get. Taylor's just been amazing for that. Like Taylor, like, bless her, has been like telling me about the bits that she's really liked, and she's given me like a bit of feedback on stuff that she thinks is sort of going on in the game and stuff. And like, so it's good to get an outsider's perspective. It really is, to see how the game is coming across, which is something that you don't get an awful lot. It's something you wouldn't get if you were just running a home game, for that, for that matter. Like, that's, I suppose, a benefit of running games online and recording them. And I wish Dawson recorded his games. My God. But never mind. Jeff says, dude, that game was legendary. Nico is a freaking baller GM. Glad to finally get in one of his games. Everything about it was great. Yeah, man. And we'll talk about it because there's so many things. And I know we had like a lengthy conversation out of the game as well. But yeah, there's stuff that just needs to be talked about. Tyler Hursten says, I still need a Dawson game. I'll just keep praying to the Lord of Light. Do so, but remember, the night is dark and full of terrors. So that's it. I'm up to date with the comments. So I'm just going to have a quick puff and a sip of tea, and then I'm going to start talking about what I like about RPGs. And more specifically, what I like to be included in RPGs, either playing or running them. Okay. So this is more for when I'm running RPGs, but this is something that I found that I'm developing a taste for, and particularly with online play rather than in-person play. I've mentioned it a few times, but in-person play I go like full sandbox. Like, I kind of just give players objectives and stuff, but I give them a huge map as well. And I say, look, end of the day, you can go wherever you like. This is just some of the things that are going on in the world, and then they begin to explore, and then slowly they start uncovering things that are like the main plot or whatever, if you want to say it's a plot or adventure. Or but with Lore Keepers playing online, it's my love of, I guess cinema and literature. Like I guess it's fitting because it's Lore Keepers with literature, but like concise, neat storytelling. Like there's only so much that you can govern the storytelling in a role-playing game because it's a collaborative experience where everyone's throwing their own stuff into the game. But what I'm really enjoying about Lore Keepers is that with it being individual chapters, like I can set myself certain goals, so I can basically keep the game in the right area tonally, and with the kind of encounters that I'm using as well, and the kind of storytelling that I'm having occur in it, and the role-playing moments, and allowing characters to have their own like aside bits with each other and stuff. In fact, that's one of the strengths of that campaign, I think, is well, obviously it's the players. I've got amazing players, but they, when they just have their own little conversations and they have their own little rebuttals and things that happen at the they say something at the beginning of the episode and it'll come back later as a joke or something, like stuff like that. So it's about having like really neat, concise narrative, but still allowing there to be room to have like this cool role-playing moments and cool fatty bits of lore whacked onto there as well. So that's one thing I like about it, about role-playing games lately, because of the fact that I'm now running these online. Character development, I think, is another thing for me. I like to see my characters change, and I like seeing the player characters change as well. I think, for when I'm running the game, that is, I think it's a DM sort of responsibility in a way to provide characters with the necessary catalyst or ingredients to, incite change. Because if nothing out of the ordinary or different happens to your characters, if nothing pushes them and nothing tests them, if nothing, stretches them beyond their means, then those characters aren't really ever going to change. They'll just stay comfortably where they are. Now, I don't believe that character development is essential for every game. But for the stuff that I like doing, I like seeing people change because of the things happening around them and because of the decisions they make. I think that's the big thing, and this is one that I've deliberately left off the list, but it's like, having your decisions matter. I think we all agree on the fact that your decisions should matter in the game. That's just a given. But allowing those decisions to then shape the player characters and NPCs alike, I think is crucial. So that's what I really like about it as well. What else have I put down? Mega encounters. So I, going back to my love of cinema, I take particular glee in creating cinematic, pacey, exciting combat. I like to ensure that when I'm running a combat, it's as exciting to watch as it is to play. And the way I do that is to ensure that I'm excited by not knowing what the players are going to do and how they're going to resolve the situations that I've put them in. I know if I'm excited by what's going on, then I'm pretty sure that people watching will, and that's like a good way of seeing if that's going to be a good encounter. With some encounters, some should be bigger than others, admittedly. Lore Keepers is filled with sort of legendary kind of encounters that sort of go down. What I'm beginning to learn, and this is something that comes, I guess, more from the concise storytelling. When I go into a Lore Keepers game, I try and have an objective to achieve by the end of that session as a DM. But now with the last session in particular, which I won't go into if no one has seen it, but in the last session in particular, it transpired that some of the stuff that was happening was taking a lot longer than I anticipated. In particular, the players getting from one place to the other. And the reason it was taking that long was because the characters had actually settled into a groove and were talking to each other and were spending time with each other and getting to know NPCs and things. And who am I to interrupt that? So I've now learned that, well, I knew this before, but like, you don't need a massive encounter in every session. You should have your rises and falls, and Lawkeepers has had like some falls, but there's quite a lot of highs in it. So that's something I've learned, that it doesn't. Just because, like, I've set Lawkeepers up as this thing where there are going to be these legendary mythic encounters. It's those encounters are augmented by the quiet periods as well, which is cool. The last one that we had before the one I'm talking about was when the characters were going down into the Underdark, and while it wasn't a quiet session because like dramatic things were happening, there wasn't any combat in it. It was. There was a 1 round combat at the beginning, but that doesn't count. It wasn't a fight. So it's allowing journeys to take place and allow characters to. So, yeah, going with mega encounters, but also allowing their breathing room. So that's something that I like in my RPGs in the moment as well. Now, this is something that I noticed. I watched Lloyd's stream, which is how I found out about the topic of the day. The topic of the day, what I like about in my RPGs, blah blah blah. Yes, so this is something that came up. NPCs. I think NPCs were being discussed in Lloyd's stream. And I can't remember who asked, but they were saying something about like NPCs or them struggling to have like, I don't know, as good at NPC encounters as they were hoping for, I think was the case. And I really enjoy being NPCs. For my profession, I'm pretty good at improvising. I'm pretty good at portraying characters, so NPCs are a good time for me. But this is something I've noticed in a lot of games that I've seen online that perplexes me slightly. And I think it might be why. I don't want to make any assumptions about people running their games, and people should run their games the way they want, but this is just my opinion. When some people run their games, NPCs are way too nice. They're way too nice. And I don't mean that in an adversarial way, I just mean like in a... Like, NPCs will go out of their way to be helpful to players, and it's sort of like, for me, that's taken out of context for a lot of the situations you find yourselves in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Invariably, let's face it, most of our Dungeons & Dragons campaigns take place in medieval or older, inspired time periods. And personally, I think that there should always be a healthy level of mistrust with most people. I think absolutely have trustworthy NPCs in there, but I think a healthy level of mistrust in your player characters from your NPCs creates drama. It gives your players a hard time. You're not giving everything to them on a plate. Basically, a friendly NPC is giving information or story points to the players on a plate. They don't have to work for it. They don't have to talk people into giving information. They don't have to win someone over to find out a particular story of what happened in this dungeon once a long time ago. And I just think that a lot of NPCs are way too nice. So it's always, I think, much more fun when players really have to work for it. Like, I hate using Lawkeepers as an example, but as it's the one that's my online campaign, it's there for all to see. Chapter 4 of the Lawkeepers is where they met Weaver, who is a Lawkeeper. He's the last Lawkeeper, and they've been looking for him for the past 3 sessions. They had been basically everything that happened up to this point was because they wanted to find him, to give him this book. Okay. And they arrived, and he was horrible to them. He was a nasty piece of work. He saw the Dragonborn, also Weaver is also a Dragonborn. He saw Taxes the Dragonborn and said, oh, you're not exactly the shade of Dragonborn that I like mildly racist to him. Now, obviously, we as D&D players understand that, yes, different Dragonborn dislike, the chromatics dislike the metallic. That's just your bog standard D&D sort of stuff, you know. But I kind of wanted to make that visceral and to make that a real thing. And I thought, well, of course he's not gonna like taxes. Weaver's a green Dragonborn, and he's seen some of the stuff that Taxes' clan has done in the past, so he's not going to be particularly like them. He's not going to particularly like the others either, because they just rolled up out of nowhere. And it made this kind of encounter go from them achieving the mission goal, we have found Weaver, to, oh, we found him, but what's more, he's being really difficult and horrible to us, and we're having to sort of convince him who we are and what's going on in the world, and like we need to convince him to tell us what the lawkeepers are, like from after this whole time. So make your NPCs assholes, make them difficult, make them troublesome, make them not give your players stuff on a plate, because it's too easy. It's too easy, and there's no drama. Like, you don't see television or films where people walk into a room and they just have a pleasant conversation. One party gets what they want and the other person is happy because of it, and then they part ways. That just doesn't happen. Well, it does happen in real life, but real life is boring, you know, for the most part. Which is why you want every interaction with your NPC to be some kind of to give something, to give a mood, to give a tone, to give and a sense of achievement when that encounter is completed. So that's my 10 cents on NPCs anyway. Like, I could talk about that for ages. Gonna have a puff, gonna have a sip of tea, and I'm gonna read something that Jeff Doty has read, because I see he's put something in the comments. Also, by the way, let me know your thoughts on the things that I've mentioned so far. I know I rambled about NPCs for a little bit, but, you know, be happy to hear about anything. Okay, Michael Barker's joined. Hey man, Michael Barker, Carl Kilgannon himself. Jeff Doty says, I agree. I try to think of it in terms of myself. If a group of strangers approached me and started asking me for help with some weird task, I'd either be scared or uninterested. Why should I put myself out for nothing unless it's friends or family? Exactly. Yeah. Like, even realistically, like Jeff has put it there, if some people come up to you in the street and just say, tell us where this is now, you know, like, no, why would I go out of my way to help you, you know, like, and also if they're doing something that isn't necessarily legal or whatever, like, there's all sorts of things that could come back to haunt you because of it. So absolutely, NPCs, as Jeff has quite rightly pointed out there, should, you know, have a modicum of self-preservation, self-interest. They should be looking out for themselves and looking out for weird people. Let's not forget, in a medieval setting where people could just bloody slit your throat and leave you in a ditch, you know, like, the world isn't a nice place these days. Think about what it was like in less policed times, put it that way. So, two things left that I want to talk about. There are so many things that I like in my role-playing games, but another thing that I like is being surprised. Now, that isn't something that I can really do myself, but I can say that it is encouraging your players to think outside the box. Oh, I said think outside the box. That's the most stereotypical thing in the world. But you know what I mean. It's when they do something out of the ordinary, you reward them in kind. You reward them narratively. You can even reward them in-game with magical items, blah, blah, blah. But you basically make sure you reward players when they surprise you. Don't be salty like, oh, they've outsmarted me as the DM and I've overcome my encounter in a very simple way. Be happy. Be happy that you have the main characters in the story that you're telling are, you know, smart, they have agency, and they are, you know, they're not just stock characters that go from A to B to C. They are people that think about what they're doing and then achieve their goals by being smart and creative. So yeah, being surprised is something that I absolutely adore. And also, I find myself often surprised when my players turn around and use something that I've established in my setting to introduce something they're going to do, for example. Or they just mention a little bit of the lore and stuff. And that's kind of ego stroking. I get it. Like, at the end of the day, no one loves your setting more than you do. But it is pretty rad when something comes around and you're actually seeing that all of your hard work that you're pouring into the world is being absorbed by your players and then fed back to the DM, fed back to the GM. And that can catch me off guard sometimes. And when it happens, I'm really surprised and make sure that I reward them either with inspiration, or other cool stuff. So yeah, being surprised. Caius has joined. Hey man, how's it going? My other brother in arms, from that legendary Myrmidon game. Being impressed. This is the last one. Being impressed. So we can all learn something from other people in the community. And I learned a lot. In the Nick Dawson game. I mentioned about it earlier. I said I was going to talk about it later on, and this is it. I learnt a lot in this game that Nico ran for us. It was absolutely fantastic. For those of you who just joined us, it was a game that was a historical / mythological game. It was sort of half and half, really. It was pretty cool. It alluded to the mythology of Greek myths, but also stuck to the historical sort of aspects of it as well. I learned so much. Oh my goodness me. What a game. What a game. There are lots of things that I could talk to you about on this stream about it, but here's one of these things. Being impressed. I was so impressed by so many things that Nico did, but one of them that absolutely blew my mind was the following. And this might seem like relatively simple, like to them, to Nico, it seemed like an everyday kind of occurrence. This is something that he uses in his games all the time. But I had never come across this before, and I thought it was genius. Absolute genius. So, to cut a long story short, our Myrmidons had, by the way, also had an amazing introduction for the game, was us climbing out of the Trojan horse. Just inspired. Just absolutely inspired. Oh, and by the way, we've been in there for like a bunch of time, like a long time. So we were in amongst our feces, we were in amongst our urine, like we had basically not eaten that, like barely at all. We had been silent for days and days and days. Anyone who made a noise, anyone who sneezed, anyone who coughed, had taken an oath that if that happened, then everyone else is allowed to just shut you up, if needs be, kill you, to make sure that the plan goes ahead. But that was great, and that was like an awesome way to introduce the game. But what particularly impressed me about what Nico was doing was we were assaulting the Temple of Apollo. For those of you familiar with the either the film Troy or the actual legend of the Saki of Troy, Apollo has a big part to play in that. And we were up against, I can't remember his name, but it wasn't Paris, I don't think. Lloyd's just joined. Lloyd, if you remember the character who was firing the bow of Apollo at us, do remind me. That would be really helpful. But with this dude, they were basically defending the Temple of Apollo. And we're charging them like Greek heroes. Another thing that was pretty rad was the fact that because everyone knows how the Myrmidon fight, like everyone has an idea of how Greek warriors fight. So cinematically, it was a really cool way of describing how, like that's something I really enjoy in RPGs too, the combat styles. I'll go into that in a bit. Lloyd says, Pandorus. Yes, that's right, Pandorus. And he was firing the bow of Apollo down at us. And alongside him was a priest who was jabbering curses at us, curses in the name of the gods, saying that we were going to be cursed for sacking Troy and laying the Temple of Apollo low and stuff. And what amazed me was that Nico made sure that these curses had genuine in-game effects, because they were basically reskinned fear effect spells, and it was absolutely genius. The reason it's genius is because you're in a time period where there are gods. Everyone believes in it so much, that's the truth. That's just daily life. There's no such thing as being an atheist. That is your life. The gods are real. So when someone turns around to you, a priest, an augur, turns around and says, yeah, mate, you're cursed. Apollo has cursed you. that's actually going to have like a severe psychological effect on you. And it affected our player characters because we were like, holy shit, we're cursed. We're ruined. We're not going to make it to, you know, we're going to be sent to Hades for this. Like, we're screwed. And it was just so simple. The idea of having magical effects being reskinned into non-magical, like, things happening in the game. Just bloody genius. It's so simple. It's so genius. And yeah, and like, this is what I'm saying for those of you who just joined. What I like about RPGs, I like being impressed. And I was severely impressed with the encounter design and how everything that was in there fed back into the setting, into the informed setting. And I was like, I asked him at the end, I was like, Nico, how long did it take you to prepare this setting? Bear in mind that every troop type we thought was different and was historically accurate and fought with the tactics of said troop type. Areas of the city, people that we were meeting, elements of legends and myths that were happening. At one point, Rome was foreshadowed when I was tying some woman to the stake before burning her alive. Yeah, that happened. It was brutal. She whispered, saying that the people that were escaping Troy were going to be, one of them was going to be suckled by a she-wolf and basically come back with an empire that would crush the entire world. It was foreshadowing Rome. I was like, Jesus Christ. The depth and level of, like, of knowledge there was just unbelievable. And I said to Nico, I was like, how long did it take you to prepare this? And he was like, yeah, an hour. And I was like, what? Like, I was like, whoa. So that's the other thing I like about RPGs. The fact that I'm in this community where I'm working with you absolutely amazing creative people. And I still find myself being impressed by what people throw at this hobby. So yeah, it was just absolutely spot on. Lloyd had said, Pandora's, yeah, that's right. Kaya says, the first thing we did was, we went to a fountain for a drink and a wash. That's right. We were like, we know we have to be quiet and not get spotted by any of the Trojans. They'd basically been celebrating and had fallen asleep. You know, you guys know the story. But we're sneaking around Troy and we're like, we are covered in our own shit. Like, the first thing we need to do is have a wash, drink, then have a wash. We were very, very specific. We weren't going to wash in it and then drink from the fountain because there'd be horrendous diseases. So yeah, even just that kind of thing where we were like, the first thing we need to do is not, like, get scurvy or jaundice or whatever you get from drinking such. I don't know. I'm not great on medicine, personally. Jeff Davis says, yeah, reskinning Bane. That was it. It was Bane. It was Bane reskinned as basically just like a priest bellowing at us that we'd been cursed by the gods, and it was just so cool. Jeff says reskinning Bane as a US. Reskinning Bane as us believing we were cursed was pretty brilliant. It was amazing, and it's just things like that that surprise me. Like people, little things that people bring to the hobby and stuff. And it made me realise one thing. I'm probably never going to run a historical game until I know everything there is to know about, like, a particular moment in time, because there's some stiff well, not that it's a competition, but like when there's that level of play out there, I'm kind of like, wow, that's spectacular. So I know I've really, really blown up Dawson here, and he's a really humble dude, so he's probably, if he does end up watching this, he'll have probably like thrown his phone or whatever device he's watching this on across the room in embarrassment for me saying, but my goodness me, if any of you get the opportunity, get in a Nico game. Alan Holloway joined. Hey man, apologies, because I'm just about to go. But those are the RPG Day questions. I nearly bloody there. Nearly finished them all. My goodness me. I almost kind of feel bad wasting people's time on the stream, like, because of the answers that I can give to these questions. It's just sort of so simple. And anyway, but I really enjoyed this line of question about what we like about RPGs. Why don't you let me know about what you guys like in particular about your RPGs? Comment below, or indeed, as has been an increasing habit within the community, go live. Let everyone in the community know what it is that you like about your particular RPGs. Running them, and in playing them as well. Anna Holloway says, "I'll rematch. As always, have a good one, Rob. Catch up next time." Yeah, man, cool. We got to talk about Vampire as well, man, because I did promise you. I do remember, not forgotten. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go. Well, thank you ever so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate the input in the chat as well. I hope you haven't mind me rambling on and on and on, but that's what this thing is for, isn't it, really? I'm going to whack this on YouTube as well at some point, so if you like this video, give it a like, and if you'd like to see more like it, then give me a subscribe, unless I'm having a go at Matt Colville. That's blown up if you go over to my channel. Oops. So if you like it, give me a like. If you'd like to see more, then give me a subscribe, or not. We're all friends here, or are we? Take it easy. Hope that all of your performances are up to standard. Finish.